Welcome to Best Available Podcast number 46. Thank you for joining us. June 22nd, we're doing this early in the week again, which is nice. Myself, along with Matt DeLuca, we're going to be kind of spontaneous today. We're just going to see where the wave takes us. We're going to see where the road takes us here today. So, Matt, how was last time we recorded this was on Thursday. So, how was your weekend?
Very warm, but it's starkly different temperatures from today. It looks a little dreary and a little colder outside. I think we're officially in summer, right? Is today the first official day of summer, or was that yesterday? Either way, I think we're in summer now, which is cool. The weekend was all right. I know probably a little bit better than yours in terms of sports teams, but we're in a new season, which is nice.
Yeah, my weekend was it was up and down, certainly, in part because of the sports teams, but I got a new keyboard yesterday, so I'm going to count that as part of the weekend. And as you said, it is summer, so some people would be very excited about that. I am kind of excited about that. However, on the other hand, when it comes to seasons, summer is by far my least favorite season of the year. It's at the back of the list, and we'll just, I'm just really looking forward. 3 months from now, it'll be fall, which will be really fun, really exciting. But I know a lot of other people are excited about summer, especially this year in 2021. I've heard comparisons to summer 2016. I don't know if this summer is going to hold up to that, but we'll wait and see. As we always seem to do now, at least the past couple weeks, we are going to start by talking about a tier list. Not just any tier list, though. We have two members of the Best Available Player team, Jillian Young and Justin Garcia, who every Monday on Twitch, twitch.tv/xghostbot_, they stream together. It Takes Two, but before they do that, they do a tier list. And it seems that we have progressed to just critiquing the tier list every week. And this week they did Pixar movies, and we critique it because we're not original, so we're just going to take other people's ideas. Matt, they did Pixar movies this week, and I think Pixar movies are very interesting. It's been very rare for Pixar to miss on a movie, but a lot of people have differing opinions when it comes to these movies. They're all pretty solid for the most part. Some are really, really good. Some are just okay. But, where someone might think that a movie is S tier or A tier, some people might also think, that really wasn't one of their best efforts. So in the S tier, they had Luca. We both have not watched that yet. It's on our list. We're going to get it done. Maybe we'll talk about it in the next podcast episode, bring back Disney Plus and Glenn, and talk about Luca, but we can't talk about that. But they had Finding Nemo, which I think we can both agree on is an S tier film. And then this is where you had your first issue. They had Ratatouille in the S tier. And you kind of think that, based on your viewing experience, Ratatouille is not an S tier movie.
Well, it's not that I had an issue with it. I haven't seen the film since middle school French class. So to me, all I remember from that is just food and a rat. I don't really remember too much else. I know Glenn and other people are going to comment on it. I'm not critiquing it. I just haven't seen the film in over a decade. So it could be very good. I just don't remember it. I would have bumped up Toy Story a little bit farther, maybe trade what they had with Toy Story and Ratatouille. Again, that movie could be really good. I have no real recollection of anything that went on in that movie. As Glenn would say, I was probably more concerned about college basketball, which it was. The timing of when we watched that in French class was also during March and March Madness, one of the first tournaments I got into. So that could be another reason why I don't really remember the film. I thought their list overall was pretty solid. I didn't get a chance to watch it live. They don't like Cars. They don't like Lightning McQueen for whatever reason. Toy Story, I know Glenn commented on Twitter. I probably would have elevated a lot of those movies a little bit. Overall, they did a pretty solid job, though. Like last week, definitely not like the fast food one that they did initially that we just roasted. By the way, Jill and or Justin, if you're listening, Ryan has not seen the Marvel movies, but I would like to do one of these with you with the Marvel films. So hit me up if that. We'll get a nice little collaboration going. Unless Ryan wants to binge watch all of them in the next week. Do you want to do that, Ryan? Watch like 22 movies in 5 days?
No. So I will say, you mentioned they didn't like the Cars ones. The major issue I had with this, and it's an unpopular opinion. Number one, I've watched the entire Cars trilogy. So they didn't know about Cars 2 and Cars 3. I said, guys, just put them in the F tier. They're not good. I had an issue. I didn't talk about it in the chat because I know I would have gotten roasted for it. I think Cars being in the D tier is very disrespectful. I will say that the second and third Cars, definitely, no doubt about it, the worst films that Pixar has made during their time. But I really thought, I don't know if it's because I am a fan of motorsports, so maybe I kind of liked it a little more. I think it goes, you don't have to be a fan of motorsports to like Cars. I thought the original Cars was a very good film. I'm not saying it's S tier. I'm not even saying it's A tier. But for me, I would have definitely put Cars in the high to mid B tier. It gets disrespected. I understand it. It's probably not for everybody, but I really liked it, and I would have probably put it higher.
I like the first Cars. I think pretty much every first movie that you see out of like all the franchises that are on this list, Toy Story, even if you include like Nemo and Dory in on that list, right? All the first installments of those would probably rank higher than the following ones. We should have brought Glenn on for this because I feel like this is what we've been building towards watching half of these within the past year, right? I mean, Coco, and we were supposed to watch, isn't Brave on there or whatever? What is the movie called that we were supposed to watch but never did?
We were going to watch Tangled, and then we never got
Tangled?
around to it.
Weren't
But
we
that's
supposed
more
to watch
just a
something
Disney
else?
movie.
Oh, I don't know.
In terms of Pixar movies, actually, let me ask you this. I have a couple questions because this kind of sparked a little debate between them last night. Number one, The Incredibles. Where do you stand on The Incredibles? You don't have to talk about both. If you want to talk about both movies, you can. But just in general, where do you stand on The Incredibles?
I think they were a lot cooler when we were kids. I think that's just my opinion. They're still pretty solid, but like, I think when I go and look for, and I know it's not, the movies aren't just about superheroes, right? It's about family and all that other stuff. But for me, I would gravitate more towards anything Marvel as an adult, right? Because we didn't really have that as a kid. So that was like one of our only kind of exposures at the time. Because like we couldn't really watch a Dark Knight trilogy at like 10 years old, right? I mean, that's just a little too intense. So The Incredibles, I think, is great when you're like younger. I don't know what they said about it. I think it's, I would take other movies over that because I could consume similar content that's more geared towards my age now, I guess.
Justin was a big fan of The Incredibles. He wanted to put it higher. And Jill was not a big fan of The Incredibles. So they compromised, and it ended up that I'm talking about the original Incredibles at the top of the B tier. Incredibles 2 ended up at the back of the C tier, which, by the way, I thought that they made a compelling argument. So they have Soul in the C tier. And we talked about Soul back in December, early January, whenever we watched it. We both liked it, but I thought they made an interesting point here is that while it was a good movie, it ended up in the C tier because I kind of agree with them. I don't know if I would willingly be able to rewatch Soul again. I think Jill made the point that watched it once, it was really good, but in terms of rewatchability, that's why it ended up in the C tier. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, I think it's so unique and kind of different from a lot of the other ones to where it might be hard to compare it to something like Toy Story or just any other movie on that list. So I think it's a little more unique in that regard. With that being said, I still really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll rewatch a lot of these movies in general. I think the only ones on this list that I would sit and rewatch would be Finding Nemo or Toy Story. But that's just me. I mean, I know other people are bigger fans of Pixar and everything else, but a lot of these movies I have to go back and revisit Ratatouille apparently because apparently it's really good and I just have no recollection of the film. Which again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. All I remember is a rat and food. So there could be a lot more to it, but that's all I remember from middle school. But I think it's overall a solid list, Ryan. we were exposed to Coco, right, for the first time. We both enjoyed that film. I think that was where, rightfully so, where it should be on their list. So, little shout out to Glenn for having us catch up on some of these just in time for this list. They should have brought him on for this. That's what tier list and Glenn for a week. He would have given us some good opinions.
They got Glenn's more than welcome to join in the chat. Like they're reading the chat while they're doing this, so that's where you kind of get the interaction, which is really cool. I will say the other big issue I have with this, and this is just a personal thing. I know this movie itself is very polarizing as it is. I'd probably put A Bug's Life in the D tier. I know a lot of people really, stand by that film as it's one of their best one of their best Pixar film, one of their favorite Pixar films, I should say. I could never really get into it. I tried to watch it a couple times growing up. I could never really understand why it was so well received. So for me, I would have probably put A Bug's Life in the D tier.
Are you not a fan of bugs in real life, Ryan? Is there like a secret fear of like bugs, or what's driving this hatred for the film?
I couldn't get into it. Like I tried my best. I couldn't, compared to the other Pixar movies. It didn't seem. I don't know. Like enjoyable is not the right word, but it wasn't captivating enough for me.
I thought it was pretty good. One of my more favorites growing up. Or at least from what I remember. Again, as Glenn would say, I'd be more focused on Notre Dame versus Ohio in the first round of the tournament. But I thought that movie was pretty solid. I think you're hiding a fear of bugs, Ryan. That I know you just don't want to say it on the air. You're probably like, oh man, bugs. That kind of creeped me out watching that on screen. So that could be it. Maybe you just don't like bugs.
No, I'm going to have to disagree on that one. Anyway, as I said, they do this every Monday, Jill and Justin, before they play It Takes Two. They do a tier list. So if you just go to twitch.tv/xghostbot_, you can participate in the chat. I mean, I was participating in the chat. They have a lot of people that participate in the chat while they're doing these tier lists. It's really neat. So definitely go check that out. It's every Monday. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, Justin also streams by himself on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, also at 9 p.m. So be sure to check that out. Show the channel some love. We're going to get into, I guess we do have to talk about sports. I really don't want to talk about the NBA, but it's obviously pretty big stuff going on right now. The Eastern Conference Finals were set. It's the Milwaukee Bucks, who defeated the Brooklyn Nets in 7 games, and the Atlanta Hawks, who defeated Glendon Negress's New York Knicks and my Philadelphia 76ers in back-to-back series. All right. Sunday night, I was very upset. Now I've kind of become just, it's whatever. I think that Daryl knows what needs to be done. I think that he'll fix the team. He knows what he needs to do, and I think it'll be done for the start of the next season. But clearly this series proved that this team is not a contender. And that's what I said this to a buddy going into the NBA playoffs. Listen, if the Sixers do well, they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, that's great. It means that the roster's fine. If they get knocked out again earlier than they should, I'm going to be upset, but I'm going to be okay with that too, because at least now we know we have a definitive answer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts anymore. The roster doesn't work. They need to make changes. So I'm fine either way. I know that the team next year will not look the same as it does right now. So I'm excited for the offseason. I'm excited to see what Daryl's able to do, and I'm excited to see what the team looks like next year. But that's where I'm at this point. I don't think it's worth getting upset over what happened. It is what it is. And you got to move on. You got to make changes.
I think the roster is going to look a lot more similar than you think it will next year, Ryan, because there's only so many moves you can make with some of the contracts that are there. I think we got to talk about Ben Simmons, Ryan. I think it's a conversation that should be had Because I think there's still some Sixers fans out there that want to keep him. And I think a lot of people in the organization, from all the reports say that might be, they might want to hang on to him again. And always going to go in there in the summer and try and fix his shot and his confidence. I don't think the direction is as clear as you're making out to be with what you're going to do with this roster. Because even if the roster looks different, what are you going to do? What's it going to look like? Like, what changes can you make?
I mean, I know Doc is saying, "Oh, we have a plan for Ben. We're gonna work together this summer." Daryl's like, "Oh, we like Ben, this and that." They have to say that. I really don't buy into anything they're doing. I know for a fact that Daryl's already looking into trade packages, and I think this team could very well look a lot different next year. I'm looking at the table right now. There's Ben might not be there. Danny Green might not be back. Mike Scott definitely won't be back. They might not bring back Dwight Howard. Furkan Korkmaz might not be here. A lot of guys on this team might not be here next year. Joel's going to be, barring him demanding a trade, Joel's going to be here. They're not going to trade Tobias. I think that they like Tobias from an on-court perspective and from a leadership perspective, so I don't think they want to trade him. I think he's kind of the leader. But I really do think that Daryl's gonna be very aggressive, and we've seen him be aggressive going back to his time in Houston. If he wants to make a move, if he wants to make changes, major changes, he's gonna make it. So I'm very confident he's gonna be able to do what he needs to do, get this roster up to where it needs to be, bring in the players that you need to surround Joel and build a good team supporting cast around him. And I'm excited to see him do it.
So I'm gonna keep playing devil's advocate. I listened to WIP yesterday morning, which was quite the trip. I know you were saying, why do I do that in the morning? Wanted to see what the fan base was thinking about. Even if you clean the slate, Ryan, what are you going to bring back? What direction do you take this team? Because if you're going to take away Ben Simmons, as you mentioned, you're going to have to change the whole way and style that this team plays. Because as of now, you have a guy who's basically like a point forward, bringing the ball up the court. You have a lot of guys that are standing around the perimeter, not moving, and Joel Embiid's the only guy doing anything. He catches the ball at the top of the key and has to do everything. So you're going to have to change the style, how the team plays, the pace. So I think even if you do make those changes, it's going to be a lot of pressure on guys like Doc Rivers and the coaching staff to figure out how to put all these new pieces together. Because even if you do a complete roster upheaval, it's you don't have the leverage. If you're trying to trade Ben, what leverage do you have with other teams? The last memory that these teams have is Game 7, is him passing up a layup. Yeah, that's the last memory that they have of this guy.
I get that. I really do. But you know as well as I do, the minds of NBA GMs, they don't work that way. There are definitely several GMs out there that think that they are the ones, they're the organization that can fix this guy, and they're going to be willing to trade for him, take on his contract, give up assets in order to be the team that fixes him. That's how it's going to work. There's definitely at least 5 general managers, if not more, that want to trade for this guy today.
I disagree. I think if this was 3 or 4 years ago, right, when we were back in college talking about this, I think I would have agreed with that take. But the style of the game is much different now, right? We're in this ever-changing pace of the NBA where everyone that needs to be on the court, 1 through 5, has to be able to shoot from deep. They got to be able to move without the basketball. They got to be able to defend. And he could defend, but the other 2 things I just named, we didn't really see, at least in this playoff series. I mean, I will say one really good stat that helps his cause is that I think he led the league in assisted 3-point field goals. So he could find the open shooter, which I think a lot of teams will appreciate. But the issue is when you need a bucket, you got to be able to go out and get it. Guys that pass up open looks don't usually see the court a lot on any level. You could go from 5-year-old basketball players to high school to college. If you pass up open shots, you're not going to see the court. That's just how coaches view it. So if he could fix that, I think the advanced metrics that favor him will help a deal, like you say. But I don't know. It's so weird, right? We've never really seen a guy, actually, we've seen 2 guys in this city have weird situations like this, right? If we want to bring back Markelle Fultz and talk about that, you and I have had heated discussions about him in the past. twice in however many years, it's kind of strange that we've never seen this happen once, let alone twice in the same place.
The Fultz thing is a little different. Like Fultz, he forgot how to shoot and he tried to overcompensate. He changed his entire form, but he still at least wanted to shoot. Ben is too scared to shoot and too scared to initiate the contact because he's too scared to shoot the free throws. I think you just get this guy in a gym, you get this guy with a sports psychologist, because even he said it. He said it's a mental issue with him right now. So if he just fixes that part, it's not going to be easy, right? But if he just fixes that issue, he's going to be fine. Like he's a broken player right now, but the issues are fixable. And I know damn well there's front offices out there that are salivating at the opportunity to get this guy because he's available right now. This 24-year-old former All-Star who has all the potential in the world, all this immense talent. They want this guy on their teams. And I know Daryl's going to take advantage of one of them and get a good package in return. That's just what's going to happen.
I mean, he definitely has. I'm not like a lot of Philly fans that's ready to write him off and say he's never going to play again, right? I mean, I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. I think mechanically his elbow's way too far out, Ryan. I think the mental issues are a part of it, but at the same time, if you're shooting, we have a video version, by the way, so you're not really going to see how I do this and demonstrate it, but when your elbow's sticking out too far, when you're shooting, your shooting hand's sticking out too far, it's going to change the direction of the ball and how far it goes, and if it back rims or just lose kind of the direction of the ball when your elbow's sticking out like that. That's fixable, though, right? I mean, you've mentioned it. Like, these guys are still young. I mean, Fultz included. Look at what he did in Orlando, right? And you were one of the people that was very happy for him to kind of find himself again. Change of scenery might help. The only reason I'm bringing this up, though, is just, are you saying that you can't fix it in Philly? Is what you're saying? He could be successful just somewhere else. So you're ready to just ship him off and get what you can get and, say best wishes. Is that kind of your mindset with it?
I would love for him to be able to figure this out in a Sixers uniform. It's just not realistic. We've gone down this road the past 3 or 4 summers. It's not going to work here. I really wish it would. I have a Ben Simmons jersey. That's the only jersey I've purchased during the process. I really wanted it to work out with him. He's a perfect example of someone that I think needs to be somewhere else. And listen, if he does figure it out somewhere else, I'm going to be very happy for him because he's a very talented guy. The league needs guys like him. If he just fixes the issues that he needs to fix, he's a premier NBA talent. I'll be very excited to see him when he decides to, fix all these issues. It can't be here. It just, the time is up. He needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a one-year process. You saw how long it took with Fultz. It took multiple years, and I know they're kind of different, but I think you got to fix some mechanics there, and then you obviously said the mental part of it as well, and that comes with time and just reps, right? You're not going to suddenly gain confidence immediately. You're going to need time to build that up, maybe in a lower pressure situation, right? Because the Philly media, you know as well as I do, it's not a great place to have struggles with, the confidence and everything else in your right. It's just not the ideal place to kind of build your confidence back up in Philadelphia. So maybe, and then you got the reports from like Stephen A. Smith saying he doesn't work hard. To say an NBA player doesn't really work hard, I don't really understand that because those guys are in the gym 24/7. So I feel bad for him, right? Because everyone's questioning his character, questioning his work ethic. And that probably doesn't help his confidence either. He's came from a premier high school, right? Played at LSU with all the legends that came out of LSU. The talent and the knowledge is still there. He does have the basketball IQ to find guys. It just, if you could get him at least moving, right? We were talking during the game on Sunday. If you just get him moving a little bit, some of those easy shots would create itself, right? Because he was just kind of planting himself along that baseline. You're clogging that lane up for everybody else. But also, if you just move a couple feet one way or the other in that spot he was standing in, with a guy like Joel Embiid, he's going to draw that defender and you're going to have a lot of open looks. So he's standing kind of in the right place. He just needs to move around a little bit within that and he'll find those open looks. You feel bad for the guy, but if you're going to trade him, I think you just got to be happy with whatever you get. I don't think you're going to fleece a team. I don't like. You're not going to take advantage and get a lot of assets back. I don't think it's not going to be a trade like that from Daryl Morey.
No, they don't need to go. They don't need to get a lot of assets back. They just need to get the right assets back. And I think that Daryl's going to be able to find a package to bring in. I think the not working hard takes that you brought up were kind of interesting from the perspective of if this guy really actually didn't work hard, he might be like the best natural athlete of all time. Like if he didn't work hard and he was still able to do the stuff he's able to do on a basketball court, that's very impressive. So he obviously does work hard. It's just there are a number of different compounding issues that have caused him to be where he's at today. I think he's going to be a good player at some point down the road. He's going to be a very good player. I'd go so far as to say that I really do, in my heart, believe at some point in his career he's going to be an MVP candidate. It's just not going to be in Philadelphia. I think that at some point he's going to live up to his massive potential that was built for him coming out of high school, coming out of LSU. It just will not be with the Sixers, and that's fine. It does kind of stink, though, from a fan perspective, how we went through the process all those years of losing. And you look at our draft history, the only guy that's going to be left is Embiid. It's just Sam Hinkie said that you got to give yourselves as many chances at the table as possible. We did that, and we got one guy when it's all said and done. Like, we don't have MCW, Noel is gone, Okafor is gone, Sims is going to be gone, Fultz is gone. We could have Mikal Bridges, but instead we had Zaire Smith. He's gone. All those opportunities we had, they're down the table, and all we have left is Joel.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing here is just the implosion of the overall process. I think if Simmons, to wrap up your point that you just made and then kind of take on the second part of it, if Simmons could develop a shot, I've been saying this for so long, a point guard that could shoot in today's NBA is one of the most valuable things, right? I think you and I could both agree on that. A point guard that could shoot when he needs to get it out, the baseline, if he could at least get a shot when he needs to, it's a valued commodity, right? So if he develops that, I would agree with that take that you just made. But if not, we really don't know because we've never really seen anyone this athletic and this naturally gifted just not have a jump shot, right? So we really don't know how to handle it. To go to your second point, it just kind of sucks for Philly fans, right? I mean, 10 years, you kept telling me we're getting there, trust the process, and it's just, it shows that building through the draft doesn't always work, right? I mean, I think the next process that we're going to see is in Oklahoma City. They have more draft picks than some NBA teams do over the next couple of years. So we're going to see if it's just a Philly process or if this kind of strategy of just building and building and building up draft picks and trying to get young guys, we're going to see if that strategy works. So this is one case study. I think Oklahoma City is going to be the next one. So I think once we see in, I guess, 10 years from now what the Thunder look like, then we'll see if it was just Philly and their drafting or if this strategy just does not work as much as it should be. Because I'm a big build through free agency guy. I want guys that are ready to go now and you just plug them in and play. That's always been my philosophy in any sport, right? You remember our MLB draft conversation from like last year or free agency, whatever it was. I'm a big get a veteran guy. So we'll see. I hope the Sixers do that because you got to give Joel some other options. I feel bad for that guy more than anything else. He played on a torn meniscus, and half the fan base wanted to trade him too. So you feel bad for Embiid, I think, the most out of anybody.
I trust, as I said at the start of this whole segment, I trust in Daryl that he is going to do the things that he needs to do. He's a very smart guy. He will do what's best for the organization moving forward. I trust him a lot more than I trusted Colangelo. I trust him more than I trusted Elton Brand. I trust him to do the right thing. But going back to the playoffs as a whole, the Sixers are not going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's the Bucks and the Hawks at 3 and a 5 seed. I don't know. I guess the Hawks might steal a game, but I think if the Bucks don't win this series in 5 games, something went horribly wrong. This really should not be competitive at all. In terms of what the league would have wanted out of an Eastern Conference Finals, this was definitely very low on the list. A Bucks and Hawks Eastern Conference Finals, it is not very appealing whatsoever.
Yeah. You do have some stars in it. You have Giannis, you have Trey. Trey Young's kind of coming onto the scene party, I guess, this playoff run, even though he's been doing this for years prior, but now the world can see it. Listen, Atlanta is a big basketball market. I think a lot of people forget it. Just the Hawks haven't really been great and haven't really made it this far too much, right? I mean, the last time was like 2015 or 2016 with Mike Budenholzer, and they just ran into LeBron. So Atlanta's a big basketball market, and then you have an MVP caliber player in Giannis. So I don't really know if I agree. It all depends on how you look at it and how you market it. This series, you have a big market, and then you have a big time player. With that being said, I don't think a lot of these games are going to be close. I would be shocked, as you said, if it goes very deep. If it's any year for Giannis to do it and for Milwaukee to do it, it's this year, right? To avoid the Sixers, to avoid some teams out west, right? No LeBron anymore, no Utah. For any team to win, it's this year. So I don't expect this to go very far, to be honest.
This series might be over the next time we record a podcast. It really might be. Out west, the Clippers suffered another injury. Marcus Morris is now dealing with a knee issue, so that's another hurdle that the Clippers are going to have to overcome. We talked a lot about the Clippers last week. We talked about them very positively. I gave props to Ty Lue. Clearly, he's a very, very talented coach. He's getting the most out of what he has available at this point. I just think the Suns are too good at this point. I spoke up the Suns. You spoke up the Suns when we talked about the NBA playoffs, I guess a month and a half ago when we started to. I'm sure the Clippers are going to make this a series, but I do think the Suns are on a path to the NBA Finals. It's hard for me to see them losing this series.
They beat a really hot Clippers team without Chris Paul, and did so in a really fun fashion at the end, right? Booker was 16 straight points in the second half. Big buckets from other guys. Nice performance from Cameron Payne as well. This is the guys we talked about in the past. Even Torrey Craig had a couple big baskets. So Phoenix is really good. I think the Clippers just had some tough luck with injuries. Injuries could be a whole nother issue, but I'm happy more so than anybody else that Paul George is playing the way he is, finally reminding people that he was one of the best players in the NBA before he shattered his leg. So really happy to see playoff P playing well. That's just what I will root for more than anything else, is just him to play well and I guess regain the respect that he earned so long ago when he was with the Pacers. And a lot of people have, the popular take is just to show that he plays second fiddle to Kawhi, but he's still a really good player. So, but yeah, Phoenix is the better team. I've been saying this for a month and a half. They are the best team in the West, and they'll be in the finals.
So that was NBA. That was a lot of Sixers, but we got some other NBA in there too. Hockey, we're going to talk about that real quick because Montreal, I doubted them in round number 1 when they played the Maple Leafs. I doubted them in round number 2. I said there's no way they're going to beat the Jets. I doubted them. Now, I said there's absolutely no way that they're going to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Whoever plays them, Vegas or Colorado, they're going to smash the Canadians, I'm sorry. And the series is tied 2-2. Vegas just got an overtime win on Sunday. Game 5 is tonight. I think this is just an example of it's a good thing that the games are actually played on ice and not on paper, because on paper this should not be a series whatsoever. But I don't know what Montreal has done. I mean, obviously they have an elite goalie playing very well in Carey Price. They have other pieces too. This is just, I can't believe every single night, I can't believe that I'm watching this team go up against the Vegas Golden Knights and giving them a fight. It doesn't seem real.
Yeah, so I don't really know if they're actually good or if they're just on a big run. I don't know if this is like a Miami Heat circumstance from last year, right? Just kind of benefiting off, the situation or betting off a tournament run. With that being said, I made the point a couple weeks ago that playing in front of a big crowd for the first time, I think would give them added adrenaline, right? I know you said it's kind of like going into a hostile environment. I think it kind of gives them a boost. I mean, I know the series is tied 2-2, but at the same time, first time playing in front of thousands of people in almost 2 years, I think it really gives them an extra boost. I don't think it's much of a home ice advantage as it would have been if they played, an American team that played in front of these crowds for 2 rounds prior. It's a fun story. I think the NHL is really hoping that Vegas wins, but we'll see. I mean, it's fun to see a Canadian team be on the verge. We've talked about it before. I don't think really in our lifetime we've really seen any of them win a championship, right? And this is what the Canadian teams will bring in: the biggest crowds, the best fans, and really a big market for the NHL. And hopefully we'll see that for the first time since 2011, a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup final. Will it happen? I don't know. Does the NHL want it? I think they probably want Vegas to get in there, but it's definitely cool because it's not as common as it was before we were born to see these teams make deep runs. We bashed Toronto a couple weeks ago. We talked about some of the other teams like Edmonton squandering opportunities, but it's something we've really never experienced. So it'll be nice to see.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. They did lose game 1, 4-1, but I will, they made the adjustments that they needed to after that first game, and they went on to win the next 2. They could have won game 4 and been up 3-1 in the series. I think Fleury has started tonight. Robin Lehner did what he needed to do. So I would not have been surprised if they went back to him game 5, but it seems like they just wanted to give Fleury a quick rest, and now he's going to be back out there tonight. I'm excited to see it. I will say is in terms of the summer of Glen, last night was a bit of a bump in the road. The Islanders lost 8-0, so not a great showing for Glendon Negris' New York Islanders. They're now down 3-2 in the series. I said that Tampa Bay was very good. I'm surprised that the Islanders were able to tie the series up at 2 games apiece. I really didn't think that this series was going to be super competitive. So I was wrong again, but I think that it seems like we're on a course for Tampa Bay to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second year in a row after what I saw last night.
Yeah, I think the Summer of Glen will definitely make a comeback early next week on a mini golf course. I know we'll talk about that a little later on in the show. It's not the Islanders' year. It's just they don't have the offensive firepower to keep up with Tampa Bay. I'm surprised they really kept up with Boston for as much as they did on the round prior. The Lightning could be good for as long as they want to be good. They keep adding guys. It seems like they get guys back from injury all the time that make them instantly better. So you can't even hate on Tampa Bay. They're just too good. And performances like that, I think with the roster they have, regardless of who they play, are going to happen because it's just overwhelming for other teams. And it's overwhelming as a fan to sit there and be like, how do you have all these guys and be able to pay them all each year and have them play together cohesively and buy in? So you got to give that front office a lot of credit for building what they have.
Well, some people would disagree with you in terms of the salary cap. They did game the system. They didn't do anything wrong. They're well within the rule book. They're playing over the cap right now with Kucherov, but they found a way to have an advantage. They didn't do anything illegal. I'm sure that the rule is going to be revisited in the offseason based on all the anger that's being directed towards them by taking advantage of that loophole. But listen,
but if it's a loophole, it's not their fault though.
No,
it's not. And I know people are going to look at me as a Patriots fan and say, of course you're going to say that, but that's on the league to figure that out and fix that rule. I mean, if there's no direct punishment for them, I mean, why criticize them? You got to look at the league. So I don't know. Again, they're putting an exciting product on the ice, though, so it's not. I mean, obviously, if you're on the opposite side of an 8-0 blowout in the playoffs, you're going to have an issue with it. But it's an exciting team. They're going to bring in views. I don't think the league's going to really have an issue with it, at least right now. I mean, in the offseason, maybe, but they're going to bring in a little more revenue than the Islanders will if they make the Stanley Cup final. Well, actually, I don't know about that,
yeah,
but
they could go back to back for the first time since the Penguins did it in 2016, 2017, and then before that, it had been a really long time. I think the last team, I want to say is Detroit. Oh yeah, it was Detroit in the late 90s. So I mean, they could join some really good company if they're able to go back to back, and I think they'll have a good shot whether they play Vegas or whether they play Montreal. I'm sure Montreal's going to find some voodoo black magic if that did end up being the series. And I don't know. I'm still, I'm excited to see what happens the next time we record this podcast. We probably will be able to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals, so that's exciting. You did mention that the Summer Glen is going to be back in the green next week, which I have an issue with. I'm still being doubted on the mini golf course, despite the fact that my opponent ducked me once and he's leaving the door open to duck me again. Somehow he is still seen as the favorite, which I kind of have an issue with.
that's because you've never seen the guy play, Ryan. He could walk out there, not stretch, not warm up, and he could run you off the course by the 8th hole. I mean, he is everything and more advertised on the mini golf course. He's not a player. He's a presence on the mini golf course. That's what he is. He's a presence. You feel it. You say, that's Glenn Denegris. He's out there ready to go. I see you trembling over there. You're getting nervous. You'll probably have the camera there next week. The paparazzi's going to be on you. I don't know. You're going to have Zach chirping in your ear half the time, too, saying, oh, Ryan, watch out. I don't know. I think you're nervous. I think you just don't want to show it.
I don't see what there is to be nervous about. How many times have you seen him play mini golf? Was it twice?
Yes, twice.
Okay, so I'm going to present an argument here. This man, in his 24 years, has probably played a fair amount of mini golf, more than twice. Who's to say that he just didn't have a good 2-day run when you saw him play, and that the other times he plays mini golf in his life, he's, maybe average, maybe a little below average. I mean, we're talking small sample size right now. Like, he could very well show up on the date that we have tentatively set, and, because things are unofficial, I can read between the lines. Who's to say he's not going to go there and struggle? Everybody keeps saying that I'm the nervous one. I'm great. I had my camera batteries all charged up, ready to go. I was very excited to hit the road last week and finally get this thing underway. That way we could stop talking about it and actually start, letting our actions speak louder than our words. I was ready to go. I was excited. I was ready to go out on the championship mini golf course. Somebody wasn't. This guy that's supposedly this great talent, he wasn't ready to go. So I just don't see why I'm the one that's nervous. I'm ready. I've been ready. And I still keep getting doubted.
We got to go get a trophy from like Five Below for whoever wins this. And then watch Zach have the best performance of the day and win. That would be a story. Listen, I think that he is legit. The 2 times that I saw him, he looked confident, never looked rattled. I did give him a push at the end, but I think that was more me playing up to his standards than anything else. Methodical, strategic, confident are the 3 words that I would use to describe him on the mini golf course. He's going to wear the Sunday red, right? He's going to pull out the tiger probably. You're going to be nervous as soon as he steps out of the car. Yeah, I cannot wait for the match to hopefully happen next week.
I'm on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, and I looked up the match, and it's showing me, actually, which is a little surprising. The odds have gone further in my favor than a week ago. It's now saying Ryan Waldes minus 175, Glendon Egris plus 300. So it's clear that, we can see who the favorite actually is. And, listen, I'm excited. I'm excited to just have a nice day with the fellas, have some fun afterwards. But mini golf is going to be fun too. I'm not going to gloss over that fact, and it would kind of be great if Glenn's able to win. But it's just everybody knows when I win, I'm going to be very humble about it. I'm not going to brag. I'm going to be like, good game, and that's how it's going to be. I'm the favorite. That's how it should be.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for sure. Listen. You guys both have talked the fair amount of smack both ways. He thinks that you're going to hide behind what you just said of having a good day with the boys. That's the new conspiracy going into it. So we'll see. We'll make sure to give some shout outs to the course as well. You can always shout out the course. Hopefully it doesn't rain in the morning. I think the forecast is clearing up for that day. Going to be a good time. I'm just excited, Ryan, to watch him get back out there and watch Tiger Woods 2.0, the Tiger Woods of mini golf.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. Of course, that will be a video that goes up on our YouTube channel at some point when I stop getting ducked. I'll finally be able to actually make that video and edit it and get it up on the channel. So look out for that. Yeah, that, as Matt said, hopefully next week will be when this finally happens. So, with that being said, Matt, you as number one soccer fan North America, I know you have been in tune with the UEFA Euro 2020 event going on right now across the pond, right? So, you talked about it a little bit last week, so how has your insight held up over the past week?
Well, my Italians look really good right now, Ryan. Still have yet to concede a goal. The only team in European Championship history to win all three group stage games and not concede a goal in the process. Not to brag or anything, but they look really good. Got 2 games on right now, so I'm excited to throw that on as soon as we get off the air. Next week when we talk, we'll be in the round of 16, which will be really nice. A little knockout stage. Listen, lots of high quality soccer. I still am going to keep saying France, Belgium. England had a bit of a rough result last week, scoreless draw. They're playing right now. We'll see a little more of a mile marker where they are in terms of the top teams. Germany had a nice bounce back win over Portugal, another team that was favored to go pretty deep. So we'll start to see once the round of 16 bracket is formed, and we go from there. But Italy, the statistics and the way they played, I mean, obviously it's a weaker group than what France had to deal with, and even Belgium. Still really impressive, so keep an eye on the Italians.
All right. So that was you're not going to get better insight from me. I'm not even going to try. I mean, I have my own thoughts, but I don't, I've been avidly watching the UEFA Euro 2020. I just don't want to step over what Matt had just said. So we're going to leave it at that. Looking at the live scores here, Croatia is up 1-0 and England is up 1-0. Both games are in the 19th minute. So a lot of great action going out there on the pitch, and it's going to be exciting to talk about the round of 16 next week. So that was UEFA Euro 2020. Number one soccer podcast that you guys can listen to is this one. I want to talk about motorsports just for a brief second. Formula One was at France this weekend at Paul Ricard circuit. And my boy Max Verstappen and Red Bull played the strategy perfectly, and he was able to get the W, extending his points lead over Lewis Hamilton to 12 points, I think it is. It was a very exciting race. People said it wasn't going to be exciting. I enjoyed it. And I think a lot of other people did too. And now they're going to be at the Red Bull Ring the next 2 weeks in Austria, which is going to be exciting to see if the Red Bulls can hold up there against the Mercedes. I got my Red Bull Polo that came in the mail last week. I got my AlphaTauri one, hopefully coming in this week. So that's fun. NASCAR was at Nashville, the Cup Series. Actually, all three, but the Cup Series ran at Nashville, which was a unique track for them. Kyle Larson won again. He's been winning a lot. He's probably the favorite right now for the title. And then IndyCar was at Road America. I did not get to watch it, but I heard very good things. That's good. I've heard a lot of positive things about IndyCar this year. SRX was at Knoxville on Saturday. I was able to watch some of that. That was really fun to watch. I missed the first SRX race, but I was able to watch this one on Saturday at Knoxville in the dirt, and that was a lot of fun. So there's your motorsports update for the week.
I don't know what half of the things are that you just said, but yeah, F1 getting a lot of buzz these days on Twitter. So it's cool to see that kind of growing. A lot more people are getting exposed to it. I think a lot of people saw that documentary on Netflix, really kind of got drawn into it a little bit more. That's all the analysis I have. You could have told me that NASCAR raced on the moon. I would have believed you. So yeah, go cars. By the way, to bring it full circle, I think Jill and Justin, you said Justin was a big car. Who was the bigger cars person? I think they need to watch the Motorsports Minute with you, Ryan, then watch some F1, then go back and watch Cars, and then they'll have that higher on the list.
Both of them did not like the original Cars, and then they did not watch 2 or 3, so I had to kind of be the fill-in for that one about where to rank them. F1, it's great to see so much attention being brought to the sport, which is really cool. I mean, especially in the United States, they're going to have multiple races in the country. Next year, they might have multiple races in the country this year because the Singapore Grand Prix is not going to happen. That was canceled. But, yeah, they're going to... I will say one of my favorite things about F1 is it gives me a good excuse to kind of try to keep a good sleep schedule because they run pretty early here in America. The races are usually around 9, 10 a.m., sometimes a little earlier. There's one in Russia in late September that's at 6 a.m. The Singapore one was, I think, going to be at 2 a.m., so it gives me a good excuse to kind of just wake up early on a weekend, which is nice. But, NASCAR local this weekend, relatively. They're in Pocono Saturday and Sunday, doubleheader, which is going to be, they did that a year ago, and they're going to do it again. So, yeah, that's motorsports. As I said, I don't know if that's why I liked Cars and other people didn't, maybe because I was a motorsports fan, but I don't think that you need to be a motorsports fan to enjoy the first Cars. Owen Wilson, always a great actor. So I think he really helped that movie out. Love Owen Wilson. But yeah, maybe give Cars a chance. Definitely. 100%. It's a great film. I don't want to hold up everybody any longer. Hopefully by the time we do this next week, we'll be able to talk about the match, and hopefully it doesn't get postponed again like it did. Not my fault, but I want to thank you all for listening to Best Available Podcast number 46. I'll catch you guys again next week. See ya on the flippity flip.